This video was made possible thanks to my amazing patrons at patreon.com/magicalhacker. If you're not a patron and you would like me to make a video for you each month using your decks, become a patron today. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavony Township, the show where it's not about me and my decks, it is about you and your decks. Whether you're a content creator that I'm collaborating with, whether you're someone that's won one of my Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube giveaways, or whether you're a patron of mine at patreon.com/magicalhacker and you get a monthly perk where I get to fix up a deck doctor, or for some other tiers, I get to play your deck. So we're looking right now at Casey Sparks' Veyran Voice of Duality deck. This is one of my patrons, and he has submitted this deck, and I'm excited to look at this. This is one of the newer commanders. Let's go and read off Veyran Voice of Duality. 3 mana for a legendary 2/2 Efreet Wizard with a Magecraft ability that says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Veyran Voice of Duality gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Very similar to a Prowess ability, except this is only instants and sorceries. Does not count enchantments or artifacts like Prowess would. And then additionally, this is also whenever you copy an instant or sorcery spell. So those are going to get triggered for that one too. So very similar to a Prowess-like effect. But the second ability here, really interesting. If you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So it's like a Panharmonicon, but instead of for enter the battlefield abilities, it's now for anything that triggers when you're casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell. So we can do a lot of crazy stuff with this. Let's go ahead and jump into talking about the deck. So starting off, we've got 34 lands here, and all of these lands are going to be lands that produce mana. We don't have like a Maze of Ith hidden in here or anything like that. We also got the Soul Ring, so that can be added to consider part of the mana base. That gives us a total of 35 lands. Normally I'd like to add one, and pretty interestingly, we actually do have the opportunity to add one here. We've got 98 cards where we should have 99, and obviously we have the commander to make a total 100. I double checked this to make sure it wasn't my mistake while I was importing it, and no, the deck actually has only 99 cards, so I'm excited to be able to add one card to bring it up to a 100 card total as well. I think that one card that we can add in pretty simply is going to be a land. We'll jump into that later on, but for right now, I'm going to keep that in mind. I want to add in a land. That's going to be my last card to fill the 100 cards. So let's go ahead, and as we do with everything, we've already talked about the commander. Let's go ahead and divide these cards up into multiple categories. I love doing it this way because it's a great way to see what's actually in the deck and gives you an idea of like what's a good category of cards to include. Because maybe as you're looking through it and I go through the cards, I say, oh look, we got Brainstorm, that's a cantrip, and then you're thinking, wait a second, we've got Opt, we've got Ponder, we've got Preordain, we've got Serum Visions. What about that other card that I remember a long time ago? It's a really cool card that would work as a cantrip. Hey, maybe that's a great card for this deck as well. So we've got a couple of cantrips here: Brainstorm, Opt, Ponder, Preordain, Serum Visions, and Sleight of Hand. The next one we got here is Distortion Strike. This is a great way to give unblockability to our commander, because if we are casting a lot of instant and sorcery spells in one turn, giving a bunch of +1/+1 to Veyran, really +2/+2, because that second ability synergizes with the first ability. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you'll get that Magecraft twice. And so that means that you'll get like +2 for each spell you're casting. Distortion Strike can make that a really lethal threat very easily. Mystic Remora for some card draw. We've got Expedite, which is another cantrip that we can add in here. Faithless Looting, not exactly a cantrip, but I'll put that with there. That seems good enough for me. Wandering Archaic, that's a pretty good hoser. When you're going up against another instant or sorcery based deck, Wandering Archaic can really slow them down or give you some additional advantage. Pyromancer's Goggles for some spell copying. Mana Geyser is going to be a ritual. Let's go ahead and scoot this over here. We've got a ritual. We've got a token maker here with Docent of Perfection. I'm going to move this into a new category for right now, and we'll figure it out later. We've got 1,000-Year Storm. That's going to be another way to copy our own instant and sorcery spells. Dig Through Time is very similar to a cantrip. Treasure Cruise, kind of like a cantrip, but I think I would put it with a card draw category. Anytime a card is drawing 3 or more cards on its own, I'm like, okay, there we go. We got some card draw. If it's drawing just 2 or 1, you know, it's a cantrip. It's not really doing a whole lot besides that. Talisman of Creativity, that's going to be some ramp, so that seems pretty good for us as well here. Same thing with the Izzet Signet, Felwar Stone, and Arcane Signet. These are all going to be part of the ramp category. Let's go ahead and make this category all on its own here. So we'll put this over here. And we actually are missing a few cards. Let me go ahead and grab these and put them back to where we need them to be. All right, let's go back here to this to the main categories. We'll add those in there. All right, so next up we've got Expressive Iteration. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and one of them on the bottom of your library, and then exile one of them. You may play the exiled card this turn. Another cantrip. Gets us 2 cards for 2 mana. Not bad. Reverberate, that's another way to copy our own instant and sorcery spells, which with Veyran could be really brutal. Next we've got Young Pyromancer, another token maker. We've got Underworld Breach for some recursion. Next up we've got Thrill of Possibility. This one discards a card and draws 2 cards. Essentially a cantrip, so we'll include it there. Thermal Alchemist. This is going to be a direct damage dealer. So every time we're casting an instant or sorcery, we're going to untap it twice with our commander out there. So we can deal 2 damage to each opponent for every time we cast a instant or sorcery spell. So I like that one here too. Another ritual with Pyretic Ritual. We've got Grave Shot for a storm, like a wind condition. So we'll put a wind condition storm or a storm category as well. Here we've got the non-creature spells dealing 1 damage to each opponent. Yep, sounds pretty good. Same thing with the Thermal Alchemist, and really, same thing as the Grape Shot. So all 3 of these are kind of like the same category here. The Thermal Alchemist, Firebrand Archer, and Grape Shot. Next up, we've got Electrostatic Field. Same thing, going to be another win condition for us. We've got Desperate Ritual here as another ritual. We've got Cathartic Reunion. That's going to be another cantrip. Electro Dominance. This one's an interesting one. We can use this one to... Do we have any of the 0-drops? We don't have any of the 0-drop spells. So taking a look at the Electro Dominance, we can use this to cast a sorcery at instant speed. So I guess that's what we would consider this category to be. I guess it's spot removal too. You know, it's not doing a whole lot of damage unless we pay a lot of mana for it. And in that case, the instant speed doesn't really help us out that much. You know what? Yeah, let's put this into a spot removal category. If we do see a couple of other things here that make sorceries be able to cast at instant speed, then I kind of get the idea that that's what Electro Dominance is being used for instead. Expansion Explosion. This one's going to be card draw, but it's also going to be a way to copy things. I'm going to put it in the copy section for right now because the card draw, if you're paying 6 mana for it, which you have to have a lot of lands or a lot of ramp in order to be able to cast it for 6 mana, you're only drawing 2 cards. So in order to get 3 or more cards, you really got to have 7 more mana. Like, I don't really want to rely on card draw that's that expensive. Blasphemous Act is going to be a board wipe. Let's go ahead and start moving some of these into some categories. So Young Pyromancer, another token maker, Underworld Breach for some recursion. 4 of these cards are going to be our win con cards. And then Electro Dominance, whoops, gotta move this into the right section here. It looks like it got moved to the wrong place. We'll put this right here. There we go. And then Electro Dominance, I think it's going to be used for a spot removal, but we'll have to wait and see if that's what it is being used for truly. Alright, so let's go back to the main categories here. We've got Blasphemous Act is next up. That's going to be a board wipe. We've got Mana Drain, which is definitely going to count as a 1-for-1 targeted removal spell. It's going to be a counter spell, so a little bit more limited than a spot removal spell, but I feel like it's good enough because it deals with instants and sorceries. That's kind of a little bit of a benefit to deal with to dealing with permanents at a very limited time window. We've got Snap. This one is not really a ritual, and it's not really a spot removal spell, but it's kind of both. So I like that one. We're going to put it with a spot removal for right now. Veilstone Amulet. This is going to be able to give hexproof to their creatures. Essentially, when I see this out there and somebody's got open mana, like their creatures have hexproof. So going to be like an asceticism effect here, which seems pretty important. When you got a commander like Veyran, you want to make sure that you're protecting it. Next up, we've got Prismari Command. This is going to be able to deal with artifacts. So to me, that counts as a spot removal spell. Next up, we've got Bonus Round. Great card for copying spells. Next, we've got Wheel of Misfortune. That's going to be a card draw. Not a ton of card draw, but certainly something. We've got Valakut Awakening. This is going to count as a land. So it looks like we don't actually want to add in the land anymore, because now we've got 36 when we include that Soul Ring. The Soul Ring itself can go with the ramp, but we do have the 36 that I'm looking for. So we get to add in something else instead. I'm excited to add in something here. Okay, next up we've got Seething Song. This is going to be another ritual. The rituals are pretty nice when you can copy your own spells, so I think that's going to be a great thing to see in the deck like this. We've got the Rowan Scholar of Sparks. Makes our instants and sorceries cost a little bit less. Same thing with Will on the other side. In terms of their loyalty abilities, let's see here. We deal 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. Emblem at -4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2 if you do copy that spell. Yeah, I think the front side, the Rowan side, I think that's a big reason for me to consider it a way to copy spells. That emblem doesn't seem too hard to get to. I mean, she starts off at 2, which is pretty low, but we get to +1. Once we +1 to her twice, on the 3rd turn, we can actually go for that -4 and get the emblem. So for a deck like this, that seems pretty great. Next, we've got Jessica's Will. This one's going to be both a ritual and card draw, but we were kind of lacking on the card draw section, so I'm going to put it over there so I can remember that's what it is. We've got Gutter Snipe here. We'll put that into a new section. That's going to go with the other cards that we talked about already, the ones that deal damage. And you know, we've got a pretty nice stack of cards here. Let's go ahead and move these over. So we've got Mana Drain and Snap, our other sources of spot removal. Same thing with the Prismari command. We do have the Gutter Snipe acting as another win condition, just like the Storm style effects. And then we've got the Veilstone Amulet here for some protection for our creatures. All right. Next up, let's take a look what else we've got here. We'll go back to the main category. We've got Deflecting Swat. That's going to be another source of protection. So just like that Veilstone Amulet, we're going to be able to protect our commander. We've got Burgi here. This one counts as card draw or as ramp. I think the front side makes a little bit more sense for the ramp, but the back side's great card draw too. We are lacking on card draw. We've got a lot of cantrips though, so I guess we're probably okay on the cantrip area. Let's go ahead and include this in the ramp section. Aria of Flame. This one is going to be another type of win condition, so we'll put that with the Gutter Snipe. Windfall is going to be, so this is a wheel. You can refill your hand if somebody's got more cards in hand than you, but I don't know if how likely that is, but we'll still put it over there with the Windfall, with the card draw rather. Solve the Equation. This is going to be a tutors. We don't have a section for tutors yet, but that seems like a great one here. Raven Form for some removal. It is sorcery speed, which makes it not very playable in my book, but you know, being able to deal with artifacts. Oh, we're playing red, so I don't know how important that is. We're playing red, so we can deal with artifacts no problem. We're playing blue, so we can deal with creatures no problem. You know, how necessary do we need to go for a Raven Form that's sorcery speed, that costs 3 mana, regardless if we foretell it or not? It's going to still cost a total of 3 mana. Sorcery speed. I mean, it's just not that great, I think, for a deck like this, but we'll still include it in the spot removal spell. We've got some. This is going to be kind of like a cantrip. It costs 3 mana, but we'll get to untap 3 lands, so cantrip it is. Next up here, we've got Fierce Guardianship. That's going to be another source of spot removal, so we'll put that over there. We've got Primal Amulet to copy our own spells. And I don't know where we're at, actually. We've got to find where that category is. Let's go ahead and slide this over. There it is. I'm sorry. I saw the Rowan, and I did not know why I did not realize that's what I'm looking at. All right. So let's go ahead and move this all the way to the end. Get a few more things. So we got protection with the Deflecting Swat. In terms of more win conditions, we've got Aria of Flame for that one. Solve the Equation is a new category of tutors. And then the removal here, we've got Raven Form and Fierce Guardianship. Perfect. Let's go back to the full list here. All right, so next up, we've got Aetherflux Reservoir, another great win condition. We've got Reinterpret, another new card. This is a counter spell for 4 mana. It allows us to cast something for free from our hand, but it has to have a lesser mana value or equal mana value. So kind of nice in terms of a counter spell. I like that. Next up, we've got Ral Storm Conduit. This is going to deal 1 damage. Another win condition here, so I'm going to put that with the Aetherflux Reservoir. Stormkiln Artist. This is going to be like another Burgi effect, so let's put that with a ramp. Past in Flames is another source of recursion. We've got Talrand. That's going to be some more token makers. And then card draw with Archmage Emeritus. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and go back to the end here. We'll add in Talrand with the token enablers, which is right here. We only have 3 in the deck. Past in Flames is going to be recursion. We've got the ramp here, which I don't know where I put it, but that's okay. We'll find it in a second. Let's go and put the 2 win condition cards with the other win conditions, and then the Reinterpret with the other spot removal spells. And then we can go here to the Stormkiln. This is where the ramp. Okay, so we've got everything divided up here. We've got all 98 cards from the deck list into the stacks that we need them to be. So what are my initial thoughts? I'm not really sure what the deck's trying to do. I think that's the big question. Yes, we can make tokens, but we don't have that many token makers in the deck. How many token makers do we have in all of Magic? So let's go ahead and take a look here. Whenever, cast, and then comma, create. Let's see if we can find stuff that, you know, will create tokens whenever we're casting our instants and sorceries. We've got Talrand, we've got Young Pyromancer. We're not casting artifacts. We could use Saheeli to create some 1/1s, but it is a Planeswalker. Planeswalkers are pretty fragile most of the time. Although making tokens doesn't seem that bad. It's just she's never going to be able to activate. She's just that static ability on a attackable Planeswalker. So maybe great, maybe not. We've got Murmuring Mystic. That's another way to make tokens. Are there any things that I'm realizing is like the cutoff for these? So we've got a 4-drop that makes 2/2s, and then 2-drop and a 2-drop that makes 1/1s, and then the Docent of Perfection. This is a 5/5 that eventually makes 3/2s. So it kind of looks like we're going for, you know, anything with 3 mana or less that makes 1/1s, anything that's 4 mana or less that makes 2/2s, and then 5 mana or less that makes 3 powered creatures. So let's take a look for it that way. Let's sort this by the CMC or mana value. You know, Scryfall has not yet been updated here. So let's take a look. We've got 22 cards total. So let me see here. Whenever you cast a kick spell, that's not going to happen. We're not targeting our own creatures usually. We do have Young Pyromancer in the deck. We're not casting Merfolks. We don't really want to pay 1 per creature, so that sounds pretty bad too. We're not casting a lot of artifacts, not casting a lot of creatures. This is a non-creature spell, but it's 3 mana for 1/1s. You know what? I'm going to say let's add it in there. So Saheeli I do like for token makers. So we got 1 we can add in. We're not casting artifacts or artifacts. This one says, choose target creature you control until end of turn it gains. If this would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. And when you exile this creature, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So it does make tokens, but you have to lose creatures to do it. I don't know if that just buffs up our creatures. Doesn't really help us out that much. Murmuring Mystic, 4 mana for 1/1s. I don't think that's very helpful here. We're not targeting our own creatures, so Orvar is not going to be great. We don't want to pay 2 mana for the tokens. We already have the Stormkiln. We have the Talrand. Zephi will only make our tokens if we're casting things with 5 mana value or higher. So it doesn't seem that helpful here either. Dika, for 5 mana, we can make some pretty big creatures, but a lot of our curve here is in the 1-drop area. So these are essentially going to be making 1/1s. Same thing with the Metallurgic Summonings. And I guess same thing here with the Shark Typhoon. That seems like a pretty reasonable way to look at it. Now, here's the question. Taking a look at all these options, I do think we've got plenty of token makers where we could definitely pivot this deck into like, hey, let's just make a lot of tokens. But I don't think that's very helpful, and I'll tell you why. The majority of this deck is trying to storm off. We've got a couple of things that care about storms. We have a couple of things that copy spells. We've got rituals. That's like the big thing to me that makes me think, okay, this deck is all about storming off. Because these are going to be, you're using up 1 card from your hand. You're going down a card just to make mana, which is just temporary. You might be able to use it to, get some stuff out a little bit quicker, but if that doesn't help you win, then that's not really a good card to include. The only way you can help you win is if, like, you're using that mana to cast even more spells, and casting those spells allows you to win the game through a storm type of win condition. So with the rituals, the storm effects, the copy enablers, I feel like this is all about storming off, and that's why I would say the token makers are actually kind of slowing that down. I don't think the token makers are going to be very helpful here. If you wanted to, you could absolutely build a deck where you're doing a token thing, but you're not doing the storm thing at the same time. I think trying to do both is what's really holding this deck back. So let's go ahead and make this its own category here. We're going to go and start this back up at the beginning. And yeah, let's just go ahead and add this into a new category. I also feel like Wandering Archaic, I really liked this card when I first saw it. I thought this was such a cool card. And I have played with it a few times as I've been testing a new deck that's mono black that really wants to have it. And I realized something. There are certain situations where it might be really cool, right? But think about the majority of instants and sorceries that people play in Commander. A lot of them are board wipes, doesn't matter if you copy them. A lot of them are spot removals, not guaranteed that they're going to be helpful in that situation either. You might have some cantrips, and that'd be nice, but in a lot of situations, people won't cast the cantrip if they're going to be just giving you one for free. And they're probably not going to want to cast it for 3 mana, so they're just going to hold it in their hand and wait till later. So I feel like Wandering Archaic, as nice as it looks, it kind of looks like, oh, this is going to be so cool, it's going to be great value, just like Rhystic Study. The fact that it only triggers on instants and sorceries actually is a pretty big deal. And the fact that it's a 2 tax instead of a 1 tax, I think is also a big deal because it's costing 5 mana. It's a creature. It can die to board wipes. What I'm trying to say is Wandering Archaic is something that I thought was going to be great, and honestly, I don't think it's actually that good. There are some situations where it can be like really, really powerful, just like Mirage Mirror, but just because it can be powerful doesn't mean that it will be powerful, and because it won't necessarily always be powerful, I don't think it's necessarily worth a spot in the deck. So that's the reason I would say, like, we probably can drop this card. We are also looking at Distortion Strike. This one will work as a win condition if we can make Veyran really huge, but it only kills 1 opponent. So unlike the other cards we've got here in the win condition category, Thermal, Alchemist, Grape Shot, Firebrand Archer, all this good stuff, that card won't actually win us the game against all 3 opponents. It can only win us the game against 1 opponent. So that's the reason why I think like that should probably be dropped as well. The cantrips, I think they're fine. I think they're great. They're really important for a deck that's trying to storm off. And being able to copy them up seems really important as well. We may end up including a few more of these type of cards in the deck. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But let's keep going through the rest of these cards. I like the ramp. I like the rituals. The recursion seems great here. I don't think there's anything I would like to add for recursion. I think these are the 2 big ones. There is one card that I think would be super sweet though. And that card is Mizzix's Mastery. That one, I'll be honest, there's been a lot of times that has helped me storm off with my storm deck, which is mono red. So being able to go for Mizzix's Mastery, get all those cards in your graveyard for free. Well, you're paying 8 mana for it, but you get them all, regardless of what they cost. That's pretty amazing. This is a game ender for a Storm style deck. So I feel like if you're going to be playing a deck with Veyran, this one's going to be a pretty good one. It is kind of expensive. Oh, actually, no, it's not that. It's not that expensive. Only $5. This is the Mystical Archive version, is the $5 one. So this is the cheapest version of it. You can definitely get this one. And like I said, I think this is a fantastic inclusion for a deck like this. We may end up starting to do the additions here at the same time. Let's go and move the cantrips over to this category, and that way we've got a little bit of separation. So, we've got 5 cards we're dropping so far. I really think Mizzix's Mastery is so good. I'm going to start off by saying let's add in that one. And I misspelled Mastery. I spelled it right the first time, and I spelled it wrong the second time. Okay, so let's take a look what else we've got here. I do like the WinCon enablers. Ral is a little bit risky because it's a Planeswalker, but I think this is still reasonable. In terms of the spot removal, the only card that I'm like, I think we gotta drop this one is the Raven Form. I feel like that's like the one to drop. If you want to have a way to deal with artifacts and creatures, and you wouldn't mind having a way to deal with lands, Planeswalkers, enchantments, whatever else there's on the battlefield, any permanent on the battlefield, if you want to be able to deal with that for the same amount of mana at instant speed, go with the Chaos Warp. That seems like a great idea here. We'll put the Mizzix's Mastery Chaos Warp as well. So I feel like that's going to be a great way to do it. In terms of board wipes, we are really, really low. I think we've got to add in a couple more board wipes. Although it is a Storm deck. So here's the thing. With Storm, it's a very weird type of deck. I noticed this when I was building mine. I didn't really want spot removal or board wipes that much. I know, you're gonna get mad at me. Don't cut removal. But I actually felt like a lot of times I didn't need the removal, but it really hurt me from trying to keep going off. So I was trying to draw cards, I was trying to keep the chain going, and finding a board wipe or finding spot removal would kind of clunk up that system, and it would prevent me from continuing to keep going. So I feel like maybe spot removal in general is probably not that great. You know what, let's not drop the Chaos Warp. If you wanted to add it, since I'm dropping the Raven Form here, that's a great card to add in, but I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. I think you want to have some ways to interact, but you don't need to have a ton. Let's see what else we here. We've got some protection. I think protection is going to be a huge reason, a huge type of card to include in the deck like this. And we're playing Veyran. I think that's a huge thing to protect. Let's go for 2 classics, Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. I think those 2 are going to be fantastic cards to include here. Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. I think those 2, being able to protect our commander for 2 mana, for 3 mana as an equipment, so if it gets destroyed in a board wipe, we can bring it back. I think those are pretty important things to have. Lightning Greaves. And what else can we go for? I do like the card draw. I think the card draw is going to be pretty nice. Is there anything else I'd like to include for the card draw? You know what? I'm not sure. Let's take a look here. Let's go back. Let's go back before we started doing this search. Here we go. We're going to look up things that say draw. Or you know what? Let's do this. Draw or investigate. There we go. There's another card that investigate whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. I kind of like that. I don't know if it's that helpful, but we'll see. Rhystic Study, fantastic. We already got the Mystic Remora. Let me look this up by CMC, though. We've got 34 cards to look through, so yeah, we can probably find a few things here. We've got Mystic Remora already. Let me see if there's anything else that's helpful here. Insight, I do like a lot. A lot of players are playing green spells. I do want to say though, Rhystic Study and Insight, while they're great card draw options, they're not really helping us. Continue to storm off. So maybe not that helpful actually. Secrets of the Dead, I don't think that's reliable enough to be able to use it, but I do like Trail of Evidence. We will have to pay 2 additional mana in order to go for the Investigate, but the fact that we're investigating twice means that we can hold a bunch of mana. If we need to use it on removal or on something at instant speed, we can. If we don't, then hey, we got a bunch of clues that we can crack and draw some more cards, kind of set up for a future turn. So I do like Trail of Evidence as a card here. And it's also nice because we can get it down for 3 mana. We can investigate a bunch of times until somebody deals with it, and now we got plenty of mana to use to draw more cards. So I like the Trail of Evidence here. We're not targeting our own creatures. We're not casting too many instants here. We do have the Archmage already in the deck. Draw a card, discard a card. That's not what we're looking for. Historic spells, we're not going for a lot of those. This costs 1 mana. This is artifacts. This is big spells. This is opponents. We could go for Mind Moil, but it's not really gaining us any cards, and doubling it up with Veyran doesn't really do anything, so I don't think that's the right idea here. Ral is an interesting card. I wish I could take a look here a little bit closer at Ral. Oops, let's go back to the previous page because it's very hard to read these tiny words. So, emblem with whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target, and you draw 2 cards. So we have to +1 it 3 times and then go for the ultimate. That seems pretty rough, especially after only being able to get it down on turn 5. It's going to be pretty susceptible to attacks. I think this is probably not a great idea to include. Let's keep going down though. We've got Tome of the Guild Pact. So whenever we're casting multicolored things, we don't have that many multicolored cards in the deck like this. We can put in Niv Mizzet, but now we're going up to 6 mana spells, and that's just, I think that's too much. So the only card I'd like to add in for the ramp is the Trail of Evidence, and the only reason I'm not like adding a lot more than that is because we've got so many board wipes, or sorry, cantrips in the deck. I don't know why I said board wipes. We've got so many cantrips in the deck that I think we're okay on that front. In the card draw front, I think we're okay. Adding in the Trail of Evidence is just a great additional piece to have in the deck. But yeah, I feel pretty good about that. So let's take a look at the rest of this stuff. I would love to find some more things that can give us copies. I think all the ones that we've got here in the deck right now are pretty nice. Rowan, because she comes down on turn 3 and can go to that ultimate just in 2 turns, I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's a problem at all. The rest of these cards I do like a lot. Primal Amulet is normally pretty slow, but because we got Veyran, we can actually double up how fast we're putting those counters on there. So whenever we're casting an instant sorcery, we'll actually put 2 charge counters on there. So all we really need to do is cast 2 of them. We got cantrips here. On turn 6, we can go Primal Amulet, cantrip, flip Primal Amulet, get the backside, and now we can go for another cantrip off of that and draw 2 cards off of that. So that'd be kind of cool. So we got a lot of things we can do with Primal Amulet. I think that's actually a great inclusion in a deck like this. In terms of the rituals, there is one that I think would be very, very good in a deck like this. If we're copying up spells, it's going to make a lot of sense for us to copy spells that are going to produce lots of mana. So Seething Song produces a lot of mana. That's great. Mana Geyser, even better, right? That's a great way to produce a lot of mana. But what about Brass's Bounty? Sometimes you'll find that it won't actually net you that much mana. You'll be tapping 7 mana or 8 mana or whatever and casting it and then only producing 7 mana off of it. So it'll be neutral. But if you're copying that spell up, now you're producing an additional 7 mana. That is really, really backbreaking. So let's go ahead and add this one into the deck as well. I think that's a fantastic ritual to include. I do not want to drop that card in a deck like this. It is expensive in terms of CMC, or mana value rather. I don't think it's expensive in terms of cost. But it's still worth it, I would say. In terms of ramp, we're a little bit low here. I'd like to add in at least 2 more sources of ramp. The best 2 that I can think of, well, we do have a couple of ways to make things costless. We've got Primal Amulet. This is not really ramp, but it kind of will act as that. We have things that are making it cost less here with Rowan as well. You know what? Now that I think about it, with the rituals, I think we got enough ramp. I would personally still like to run a little bit more, but you know what? For right now, I think we're going to be okay. Let's see what else we can find here. We've got the Recursion, which I think is good. We've already added the Mizzix's Mastery. We've got the Wind Conditions. Those are pretty nice. There is another Storm Wind Condition that would be pretty cool. I can't remember what it is, though. Let's see. Let me go Storm Damage. Let me see if I can find it this way. There's a card that deals damage equal to Storm. Ignite Memories. That's the one. So this one requires our opponents to have some cards in hand, but it could be a lot easier to win with this one compared to the Grape Shot, right? Because this one we have to have, let's say nobody's lost any life at all. With Grape Shot, we have to deal, when we cast a spell, copy it for each spell. So this is going to trigger. So Storm is going to get doubled up with our commander. So that means that we need to have, we still need to have 120, but that means we only need to have 60 spells cast that turn. That's still a lot, though. 60 spells in one turn is certainly a lot. With Ignite Memories, if people only have like big spells in their hand, this could be done in like 20 spells a turn, 10 spells a turn, Ignite Memories. So I think this one's a fantastic card to include. We do have the Ral in the deck already. We have the Grape Shot already. The other 2 here, Storm the Vault, it's not actually that helpful here. I'm not sure why that came up here. Oh, because it has the word Storm in the name. Okay, that makes sense. But I like the Ignite the Memories. We could also go for like Mind's Desire or the, what's the one that mills? Like Frost something. Storm Mill. I can't remember what the other Storm. There's like a Storm card that mills opponents. That's fine, but it's not great. It's not even coming up because I don't have it in my collection. So there's a Storm card that mills our opponents. That's pretty tough as well. People have even larger libraries than they have life totals. So this one's even worse than the Grape Shot, really. Even though you're milling 3 cards, you still have to get more of those than the Grape Shots. Do you, though? hold on a second. Let me do the calculations real quick. So let's say we're comboing off on turn 8 or so. We started off with 7 cards in hand. We drew 8. Let's say we drew 9 or 10 because we have some cantrips in here as well. So let's say 11. We've drawn 11 cards plus the 7 from the beginning. So that's 18 cards. We started off at 99. We drew 18, so that puts us down to 81. We have 81 cards left in the library. Let's say most people have like 81 cards left in the library. So for each one of them, we want to deal, let's see, we want to hit them for 27 copies of Brain Freeze. So that means that we're going to need a total of 27 times 3, which is 81, minus the one that we're casting, 80. So we have to have 40 spells cast in the turn. So yeah, a little bit better than the Grape Shot. But when it's not good enough, it's really bad. Somebody could have like a Eldrazi enabler, the mills, can stop mill. I think this is probably not that great of a win con, especially that it doesn't combine with any of our other win cons. All the other ones that we are including are dealing damage, so we can actually use those pretty well. Mind's Desire, though, is pretty nice as well. Let me take a look at this one. Mind's Desire. This is a 6-mana storm spell that allows us to cast things for free from the top of our library. I mean, this is pretty nice. I think in paper, it's kind of hard to do because you have to keep shuffling. Every single one of the spells you have to keep shuffling. But that's okay. Oh, but we can just shuffle, exile, shuffle, exile, shuffle, exile. Okay, that's fine. I kind of like the Mind's Desire here too, though. I think that's a great win con. Are there any win cons that I would say are pretty bad? Let me see here. I think this one's great. We can deal 2 damage to each opponent per spell that we're doing. Grape Shot is doing, again, 2 damage per spell that we're doing. Firebrand Archer, same thing. Electrostatic Field, same thing. We've got Gutter Snipe that's going to deal 4 damage, which is pretty sweet. Aria of Flame or Aria of Flame. Each opponent gains 10 life, and then we are dealing damage equal to the number of verse counters on it to target player or planeswalker. So let's say we've got now 150 life to deal with. If everybody starts off at 40 and they've gained 10 from our Area of Flame, Aria, I can't pronounce that word. All right? Oh, I'm having trouble there. Aria of Flame, so they're at 50 times 3, that's 150. We're going to deal 150 damage. So we're looking for 150 is equal to x times x minus 1 divided by 2. So what is that equal to 150? Let's divide, we're going to multiply both sides by 2, that's 300. Now we got x times x minus 1 equals 300. I cannot do the math here in my head. If we have 300, so let's take the square root of 300. That's going to be 10, and then the square root of 3. So that's like 1 point something-ish. Let's say 11. 11 times 10, that's 110. Now we're not anywhere close. Oh, we got to multiply both sides by 2. So now we're looking at, yeah, so we've got to do, I think it's like 20 spells in that turn. Something along those lines. That's pretty good still. I think 20 is a good cutoff. I had to do the math there, and I might be wrong with the math. But I feel like if we've got 150, so let's see, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Yeah, we're going to keep adding that up until it equals to 300. So we're looking for 600 worth of damage equal to, equal to 150. So it's 300 damage worth for x times x minus 1. Yeah, taking the square root of 300, it definitely gives us 10 times the square root of 3. Where am I going wrong with my math? I can't figure it out. Because it's not, well, let's just do it. 13 times 12. That's going to be, what is 13 times 12? Hold on, calculations time. 13 times 12, that's going to be 120 plus 36, that's 156. Yeah, so that'll be enough. If we go for 13, I think that'll be just enough. We have to have 13 spells. I think that's fine with Aria of Flame. Aetherflux Reservoir, this one's kind of the same thing. It's going to be the same calculation, actually. So, yeah, those two are both just fine. Rowlstorm Conduit, this one will deal 2 damage to each opponent, so yeah, I think that's good too. I think this is pretty good. We got a nice set of spells here. I think I'd like to drop a few of the spot removal spells. Like I mentioned, going for board wipes can really slow down the deck, and I think that's going to be one area that we can really hone. We can make the deck a little bit better. Electro Dominance is pretty expensive, but it has a lot of extra versatility, so I'm going to keep it in there. Mana Drain, Snap, those are 2 drops, those are great. We've got Prismari, that's a 3 drop, that's fine too, because there's a lot of versatility on that as well. We've also got the Fierce Guardianship, which is going to be basically 0 mana, so that's fine. Reinterpret, though, this one is a little bit of an odd one, because if we can cast something big, great, but if not, then we're not really doing a whole lot with it. Let's drop this one. I think that's going to be a great place to start. The Reinterpret, dropping that one. I'd also like to add in Cyclonic Rift. I know we've got the Cyclonic Rift, I know we've got the Blasphemous Act in there, but we want to have more than one board wipe, and I think Cyclonic Rift is open-ended enough that it could actually be possible to use even when we're trying to storm off. And I think that might be my final decision here for the deck. We've got a lot of card draw. We've got the cantrips. You know, I'm not a huge fan of cantrips except in storm decks, but I think this, you know, like I said, this is going to be a great place for it. The mana doublers, but there's a spell thing that would work really well with Veyran here. This is called, what is that card called? I can't remember now. It has an ID of 0, so it's a colorless card. And it has the word copy on there. What is that word? It's like a 3 mana thing. Where is it? It allows us to copy spells. Whenever we would copy it, we copy it an additional time. There it is, Twinning Staff. So whenever we copy a spell one or more times, we instead copy it that many times plus an additional time. So the benefit here is if we're using this spell, we let's say we happen to have a Reverberate in our hand, we can copy something and copy something a second time. So I mean, this seems like it's very able for us to kind of just go off and start doing crazy stuff there. I think we got to add this one in. Twinning Staff, really sweet. So let's see, what's the best case scenario? We've got Twinning Staff on the battlefield. We're about to cast Seething Song or something. We go for a bonus round first. We got the Twinning Staff on the battlefield. We cast the Seething Song. We're going to copy it to the bonus round. Copy an additional time from the Twinning Staff. That'll trigger off from the Veyran. So Twinning Staff will get triggered there. Twinning Staff allows us to... Yeah, because this is going to be... Oh, hold on a second. If you would copy a spell one more time, instead copy that many. So it's not going to work with Veyran. It's not going to work with Veyran because we're not going to copy it an additional time. This is not like whenever you copy a spell, copy an additional time. This is if. This is a replacement effect. Is it still good enough, though? Let me think about this. So we're getting additional copy. We're getting a third copy from that. I guess that's okay. Yeah, you know what? Let's include it. I think this is okay in a deck like this. We are now currently one too many cards, though. We need to drop another card if we want to add that one in. Or drop something else from one of the cards we're adding in. I think we're okay here. Faithless Looting is like the only cantrip I'm kind of looking at, and I'm thinking that might not be that great. Because we use up 1 mana. We don't actually get any cards in the hand. But this has flashback, so that is kind of cool. This was also net 0. We're actually net -1, but it's free. So we get to untap 3 lands. So I think those two are like the ones that I'd want to drop if I were dropping any of these cantrips. I think we're going to be okay though. Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, Serum Vision, Sleight of Hand, Expedite, Dig Through Time, Expressive Iteration, Thrill of Possibility, Cathartic Reunion. Man, I feel like I really want to drop those 2 cantrips. That would make room for that. And then let's say we add in 1 more cantrip. So let's say we drop these 2. I feel like we can't. I think we got to keep them in there. We got to keep them in there. Let's see if we can find something else to drop instead. If we can't, then we're just going to drop one of the cards that we've added in here. I think we're great here. I think we're good there. Recursion-wise, I think we're really set. Yeah, I feel like we're okay everywhere else. I think we need to have the protection. We've got to solve the equation. Normally, I'm not a big fan of that one, but I think now that we can grab Cyclonic Rift with that, I think that's going to be a really key card to have in the deck. What can we drop from what we've included? I think Twinning Staff is just like so borderline. And then Mind's Desire, it's a 6 mana spell. We've got so much so many win conditions as it is. Maybe we could just drop that one. But it does make another storm count. So let's say we're not there, we're not high enough yet. We could go for Mind's Desire and then get there. Whereas Ignite Memories, like we have to get, well, that's so easy to do though. It's like the bar is so low. You know, let's go for the Trail of Evidence. This one I think, you know, like I said, we have enough card draw. I think this would be a great card to include, but it's not that necessary that I'd like to keep it in there compared to everything else. So I think that's going to be it. We're going to drop the Docent of Perfection, Young Pyromancer, Tolerant Sky Summoner, Wandering Archaic, Distortion Strike, Raven Form, and Reinterpret to add in Mizzix's Mastery, Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Brass's Bounty, Ignite Memories, Mind's Desire, Cyclonic Rift, and because we're 1 fewer than 100, we're going to add in a Twinning Staff as well. So that is it for this deck, Doctor. I hope you enjoyed me going through this deck, Veyran. Hopefully you guys learned something. Maybe you're building a Veyran deck yourself and you're thinking, okay, this really helped me kind of get a couple of ideas of what I want to do with my deck. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun making this. And again, thank you to my patrons, especially to Casey Spark, for supporting the channel. I really appreciate you all. And I will see you all next time. Stay awesome, everybody.